Welcome back to the New Mexico Business Podcast. Who am I here with today?
My name is Craig Cunningham, and I'm a real estate broker here in Santa Fe with Real Brokers.
Great. And so how good of an experience have you had with Real Brokers?
Oh, it's been fantastic. I was with another firm before who I liked quite a bit, but I like being with Real. They have great technology, which really helps in terms of doing deals. And also I work with a great group of people here. I work with a woman named Bunny Terry and her team. We've got a great little house that we're in downtown. So it's a really nice space. It's important to work with people that you like and that you trust.
So could you give me the technical definition of a broker?
Yeah. So the way it works in New Mexico, and it's a little different in different places. So we get our license to be a residential real estate broker. You could also do work to be a commercial broker or a property manager or whatever. But I'm a residential real estate broker, and our actual title is associate broker, because in any brokerage firm in New Mexico, you have associate brokers. So we're all the people that are actually selling our associate brokers. And then there's something called the qualifying broker, and that's the person that has even more training and is responsible really for reviewing, all the contracts and everything, and make sure that we're in compliance with all the standards that New Mexico sets forth. And then also most of us belong to the National Association of Realtors. And it's all about, being truthful and fair and honest and being a true, broker for your client and representing them in the best possible way.
Okay. So is there a difference between if someone says they're a real estate agent or a broker?
Well, so that's also a good point. So in New Mexico, we are all brokers rather than agent. Agent can mean different things. Like, for example, in Texas, they refer to them as real estate agents. Um, in New Mexico, we're brokers. And by and large, it means that we are managing the transactions and negotiations, but we don't have a quote unquote fiduciary responsibility. So, in other words, the clients, whether they're the sellers or the buyers, are acting on their own behalf in terms of the transaction. They're the ones that are signing the contracts, et cetera. We are working with them, whether it's to get their house sold or to help them find a house. But there is a technical difference between being an agent and a broker. So, like I said, in New Mexico, it's a little bit more of an arm's length type of thing. In Texas, they can actually have what's called agency, where you have a fiduciary, which is a fancy term for helping them represent.
Is there anything you could do to get your real estate license taken away?
Oh, sure, yeah. I mean, if you were doing something that was morally or ethically not responsible or financially irresponsible, so we have a strict code of ethics that we have to abide by, both in the state level and then at the National Association of Realtors. But when it right comes down to it, it's just doing the right thing, being honest, um, being above board in all your transactions, doing the best that you can on the behalf of your clients, and also treating the other side fairly. So, you could get into a lot of specific do's and don'ts, but when it comes down to it's just being a good, ethical, moral person in your business dealings, which we should all be doing anyway.
Yeah. And so how long have you been in the real estate game?
So I've been doing it now for about 5 years. It's a second career for me. I moved to Santa Fe when I was 60, and I thought I was going to retire, and then it turned out that I wasn't very good at retiring. And I had been in the corporate world in sales and marketing for most of my career, so it seemed like a natural thing to do. And I got my license, and then fortunately I was introduced to a woman who had been in the business for quite a long time, and so she took me on and really helped me learn the business.
Are you talking about Bunny?
Not Bunny. There was a lovely woman, Linda Gammon, who Bunny and I worked with.
Okay.
Sadly, she passed away, but
Sorry to hear that.
But she was a great woman, great teacher, also a lot of fun. But so I knew Bunny, and then Bunny decided to start her own firm over here with Real Brokers, and I respected and respect Bunny so much that I said I want to come with you and work with you in this new venture.
I found Bunny to be an extremely positive person
She
and
is.
also very ahead of the curve with the social medias and
Yeah.
just everything she's
Yeah.
doing.
So, Bunny has been a broker for a long time, but she really was on the vanguard of jumping on with Facebook and Instagram and YouTube. And she, for a long time, did her own, I think it is called I Love New Mexico podcast. So and it's really helped her career immensely because she's known, everybody in Santa Fe knows who she is. And so she's able to get a lot of business that way because people see her, in her podcasts and her YouTube and everything, and they like her and her personality and the way she does business. And so, you know, social media is the name of the game.
Yeah.
And so now I have my own YouTube channel.
You are also very good at that,
Oh,
I will
thank you,
say.
thank you. So
All that will be in the description.
yeah. So anyway, it's good to do that, and you need to be doing a lot of things in your community. So I do some volunteering. I do Big Brothers. In the past, I drove for Kitchen Angels. So I don't do that just to network to get business. I mean, it's good. You need to do it because it's the right thing to do. But it's good to be out there in the community, and that
Yeah,
way you get your
definitely.
name known.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have been volunteering with the Food Depot a couple times.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, and I'll
Yeah.
help out Lisa Farren's weed cleanup crew every once in a
Oh,
while.
nice.
Go
Yeah.
down to the rivers and clean
Yeah.
up. Do you think real estate is an oversaturated market?
People say that, but it's the same 80-20 rule that applies to anything in business or life. There are 20% of the people that are doing 80% of the business. So there are, and not any disrespect to any of the other realtors in town, but Santa Fe is a small city, 85,000 people. There are almost 1,000 realtors here. But there are probably 10% of us or 15% of us who treat it as a full-time job. And so there's a woman that when I first started working said real estate is a business that responds well to elbow grease. So if
Uh-huh.
you get in there and you work hard, and the good thing about it is it is a numbers game. So the sense of if you are out there and making X number of connections, it does lead to business for you. And I found it to be just incredibly enjoyable, meeting people, helping them, and then, getting to see so many interesting places in Santa Fe.
Would you recommend being a realtor to someone straight out of high school?
I think you could, yeah. I mean, there are plenty of people. You don't need to have a college degree. You need to be a smart, well-spoken, ethical person who has got some hustle, and is gonna work hard. But as long as you present yourself well, you're well spoken, know how to write. You'll learn the business in terms of negotiating and all the contracts and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I think it's definitely something that you can do without having to get a degree. Degrees help in the sense of discipline and learning, and knowing how to complete tasks. But I would say it's not mandatory.
Does real estate, being a real estate broker, provide upfront money, or is it something you need to get more experienced as and get then you'll start making money like you would need like a job supporting what your real
Yeah, yeah.
estate
Well, it
is.
depends. I mean, a lot of people do what's called uh, dual something. I forgot the term, but they will start off. They have to have a job to make money, but then they'll get their license and be working at nights or on the weekends. In real estate, you are, even though you're associated with a firm, whether it's Real Brokers or Sotheby's or Keller Williams or whatever, you are not on salary. You are straight commission, and you have expenses that you have to pay for your license. You have to pay for fees to be associated with the firm. So you have to have some money up front to do it, and it takes a while to ramp up and start to get some business. But once you've been doing it for a year or two and really working at it, you start to generate a base of business, and you can make good money. But to your point, sometimes you have to start off and you have to be working another job in order to be able to fund working in real estate.
So how much does it cost to get a real estate license?
Oh, the cost itself is not that high. I mean, it's best you have to get 90 hours worth of credits through an accredited firm, like there are national firms like Stanley Kaplan and things like that, and local. So that's going to cost you maybe $1,000. The license itself I think is I'm gonna. It's been a while, but and you have to renew, but it's like a couple $100 or something like that. And then you have to have what's called errors and omissions insurance. You have to have insurance, so that'll cost a few $100 each year. But the costs are relatively low to get into it, and you can work from home. I mean, you could work in an office. If you're associated with the firm, a lot of times they'll have open office space for you to come in and use, or if you want to pay for a desk, you pay a desk fee. But it's a fairly low barrier to entry. But the challenge is that you're not getting a weekly paycheck. So the other thing you have to learn, and I'm still learning it at now 66 years old, is every commission, put aside money for your taxes, put it into savings, because you're not doing a deal every week. Well, I mean, some people are, and there are a lot of people that have such volume they do, but it takes you a while to build up into that.
So, what have your biggest challenges in real estate been?
I think it really is getting into the market and getting people to know you and want to work with you, whether it's to list a house or representing buyers. A lot of realtors start off more on the buyer side because through your firm, or let's say you do pay per click stuff, in order to attract people. It's often easier at the beginning to represent buyers, and then once you get a track record, um, to be able to start listing houses.
So, what I heard is publicity and then reputation matter the
Yes.
most.
Yeah. Yeah. And then also the volume of, like, when you become a broker, you need to talk to everybody that you know in the world to say, I'm in real estate now. And, if you know of anybody, or you yourself are thinking about it, I'd love the opportunity to present my credentials to you. And people are really good and they want to help. So they might not be doing anything themselves, but they might refer somebody to you. And it takes, you get a few things in the beginning. It's really important now to ask people when you've done a deal, and they feel good about the transaction, to do a review for you on Yelp, and a review a Google. Need to set up a Google My Business account and get reviews that way, and then also to set yourself up on Zillow, because most consumers look on Zillow, and you want to set yourself up on Zillow, to get reviews as well, because people do search and they look for, if somebody's in Dallas and they want a second home in Santa Fe, they'll Google Santa Fe realtors, and if you've got a lot of Google reviews, you'll start to show up in natural search. And people do look. I've had clients that pick me because they read my reviews and they like the reviews, and so they pick me either to represent them to buy a house or to sell a house.
Yep. It's definitely important to have people recommend you. That
Yeah,
is the most business we've ever got. Our number one lead source is just doing a good job, and then
yeah.
those people tell
Well,
people,
yeah, and then it's like I've had families. It's like I did something for mom and dad, and then the kids are going to move to Santa Fe, so I work for them, and then they refer another friend, and so that is the huge way. They say that it's called your sphere of influence, and if you really stay in touch with your sphere of influence, that's where you're going to get most of your business from. You could spend a fortune on paid advertising and everything, and that can help, but at the end of the day, it's who you know and expanding that base of people and doing a good job so they want to recommend you.
definitely. And so, do you have any goals for the future?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to believe I'm 66 now. Uh, and I really enjoy doing this. I'm going to keep doing it for as long as I feel good and healthy. And it's a good way to make money and feather the retirement nest for me. And it's just a good way to stay active and meeting people. And and it's also, the other thing is, it feels really good when you find, like, that first time home buyer, getting them in a house and they're so excited and you help negotiate the whole process for them, or somebody who wants to sell their house because they want to do something different in their life. So you are being of service to other people, which is, it's not, the financial transaction is nice, but it really is the nicer thing that most of my clients have become friends.
Being helpful to other people is built into us. We
Yeah.
need that to do that.
Right, exactly. And then that, it's like, do it to others as you would have them do unto you. And it's like that is the golden rule, and it applies, and it particularly on something, because you think about real estate, this is a transaction that is financial for people. It's also emotional, because it's either selling a house or buying a house. So it can be, and there are all the regulations and the contracts and all that. It can be very stressful. So it's good to have a broker who knows what they're doing and has a good bedside manner to be able to walk you through the entire process. And sometimes people can get upset or whatever. And you just have to you know know that it is a very big process for most of us. For most of us, it's our largest financial transaction ever.
Yeah.
So as a broker, you really need to keep that in mind and uh, be really good and of service to your clients.
So you moved here 5 years ago. How have you seen Santa Fe change?
Well, so it's interesting. When I started really right at the beginning of COVID, and so everyone thought, oh, the real estate market's just going to die. It was exactly the opposite. I mean, sales in Santa Fe went through the roof because people were wanting to leave bigger cities and come someplace where they felt it was safer, but also better quality of life. And it's a very sophisticated city for being a small city. So, people moved here and liked it. Um, but what I think I've seen, and talking to brokers who've been at the business for a long time, real estate in Santa Fe used to be more seasonal. You'd get a ton of business in the late spring and the summer, and then it would kind of quiet down. You might get some good activity around the holiday season where people are in town, then it would get quiet. But now it's a year-round business because people are, looking. We were just ranked by Travel and Leisure last year as the #1 travel destination in the United
I saw
States.
that.
Yeah, and so people are really wanting to move here. And so, I've got right now, I just had 2 closings in January. I'll have another couple closings in February, and a bunch of buyers. So it has become a year-round market.
So there's a lot of talk in the city about the boomers passing away and leaving a wealth gap of the very expensive homes. Do you see that as a problem?
No, I mean, I think what you do see is that oftentimes the boomers, of which I'm one, aren't necessarily. It's like, okay, we're going to sell our house. Often, what they'll do is leave their house to their children because there's a whole tax advantage in passing it on to the next generation. It's called the step up. So if I had bought the house here 30 years ago and I bought it for $500,000 and now it's worth 1.5 million, you could be taxed on that, the delta, the $1 million, unless you had done a bunch of improvements. If you leave it to your children, their tax basis is based on what the value of the house was when they got it from you. So in a lot of ways, it becomes a generational transfer of wealth. Now, there are still plenty of people who decide they're going to sell because their grandkids are in a different part of the country and they want to be near them, or other lifestyle changes. So houses are always selling and moving in Santa Fe, and even though we have a reputation of being a very expensive market, and we are in many ways, but there's still, if you move further out of town or if you're looking at a condo or a smaller house, you can still get in at lower entry points, let's say in the fours and the fives, which is still a heck of a lot of money. But there are houses in Santa Fe to fit most budgets.
So do you see any future changes? Anything else you can think of that will happen in Santa Fe?
Well, I mean, I think you know we we grow, but we're not like Albuquerque or any major cities where so many people are moving in and out for business and getting transferred and things like that. So Santa Fe, I see, is kind of moving steadily along, growing gradually. People want to be here for the quality of life, but I don't. And also, we're rather strict on, because we have to think about water and sources of water. So we're not going to put in huge tract subdivisions like they do in Phoenix or even down in Albuquerque, Rio Rancho. So it's always going to be, I think, a little slower and more gradual here, but that's why people like it.
Yeah.
And what we do see, though, which is nice, is that, and it really happened more so during COVID, when people can work from anywhere, um, a lot of younger people are moving here because they can work and then go take a beautiful hike up in the mountains, or go go skiing, or go play golf or whatever. So we've got a really nice quality of life here, and good arts and culture scene, good restaurants. So more people are choosing to move here when they can work from anywhere they want.
Yeah, one of the biggest complaints about Santa Fe is that there has very retirement culture and that young people don't have anything to do here.
Yeah, I think that's legitimate, but I know, no, you're younger than most people I know, but there are lots of people in their 30s that I know who, they have their own communities, and then people, when you start to have kids, that's an instant way to you start meeting other uh, families with kids and
Yeah.
socializing. So I think it is tougher, but I think there are more and more younger people who are either choosing to stay or move here, and but it is, you can't escape the fact that it is a lot of people that are my age and older who live here, and a lot of things that are targeted to them. But you've got all the breweries now, that do things, and so it'll be important for Santa Fe, I think, to attract more young people, and there has to be a lot of thought about how you do that and make it a place that young people want to come.
How would you personally do that? How would you attract young people?
Well, there's an interesting thing that some cities have done, which Santa Fe could take a look at, to encourage people to move. Like, believe it or not, I think Tulsa, Oklahoma did it. If you move and start a business, they'll give you, say, $10,000 in seed money. Now, there are all sorts of strings attached to that. You just don't get the money outright, but there are ways of actually attracting people by offering some financial incentives to move. I think also more affordable housing, which is tough in Santa Fe because land costs are expensive and building costs are expensive, but to have more affordable housing. And we are seeing definitely a lot of building of more apartments. So even though the apartments are not cheap, but it's a way for somebody to move here without having to buy a house immediately. So I think there are some things like that. It would be great. I've always thought if we could get if University of New Mexico would do a Santa Fe branch. They've got one up in Los Alamos, and they've got one up in Taos. It would be great if they, we could definitely use more educational opportunities in Santa Fe, and that would also be a way of getting younger people here.
What is a good way to implement affordable housing into Santa Fe?
Well, that's challenging. I think the city does have an affordable housing fund. There is now what we call the mansion tax, where anything over $1 million, the $1 million to whatever, let's say a $1.5 million house, the buyer pays a 3% tax that goes into the affordable housing fund. Now, that's honestly quite controversial right now among the people that are the buyers and sellers, because there's a concern about, is it going to dampen the sales? And there are a lot of houses at those price points in Santa Fe. But I think if the city can allocate funds to builders who will, like, there's a big organization in Santa Fe called HomeWise, which is a not-for-profit firm, but they build houses. They'll get tracts of land and they'll build houses at more affordable price points, in the fours, fives, and sixes. Again, you know, it's, I bought my first house for $111,000 when I was 30 something, and that seemed like a lot of money to me back then. But to have those opportunities, and then the other part of it is then to have financing mechanisms for younger people or lower income people to be able to get a mortgage. And there are definitely some programs like that. There are, I think, some county programs and some state programs that help with the cost of down payments and things like that. So, another thing that's good is to always know good lenders and all the different opportunities they have, because they can work with somebody to say, this is how we can help you realize your dream of getting a house.
Do you personally, how do you feel about the mansion tax?
Um, it's, well, on just the most basic level for me, I'm concerned, will it scare people away, or will it have the unintended consequence for the city of people saying, I'm not, I don't want to pay that because it's the buyer who pays it. Now, that doesn't mean that there's not negotiation between the seller and the buyer on the cost of the house, but will it have the unintended consequence of people saying, fine, I'll buy in Santa Fe County? So could you just go out a little
The
ways?
rule does not apply to Santa Fe
It
County.
doesn't apply to Santa Fe County.
Okay.
It's only the city of Santa Fe. So will it?
But aren't most of the higher end houses outside of Santa Fe anyway?
Well, I mean, there are plenty when you go up along Hyde Park Road and Bishop's Lodge and the Old Taos Highway, and then going down into Quail Run and all, the east side, of course, is the houses in the $1 million plus easily. It's like $800 or $900 a square foot. So there's plenty of stuff that is in Santa Fe, but you can go out to Las Campanas or Monte Sereno or a bunch of those places there in the county that are still really close. You can be in the plaza in 10 minutes. So could it have the consequence of people saying, no, I'll just buy out there because I don't want to have to pay that tax? We don't know. So, and there is a lawsuit uh, against the city for the tax right now, um, because it is, and this is, I'm really getting to territory I don't know much about, but there is a question of whether or not the city has the right to levy that sort of tax based on the New Mexico Constitution and tax laws. So, we'll see that shake out in the next few months. But at the end of the day, is it important to find ways to make more affordable housing in Santa Fe? Absolutely. It's very important because we need, it's happened so much in other parts of the country where the people who were born and raised here can no longer afford to live here, or the people who are providing essential services in Santa Fe have to move further and further out. I mean, there are a lot of police and fire who, for example, wind up living in Rio Rancho because it's more affordable, and then they commute every day. It'd be nice if we had affordable areas for them to be able to live in the community that they work in.
That would be nice. If you live
Yeah,
in Rio Rancho, that's an hour and 30 minutes
yeah,
away
yeah.
every single
It's
day.
a yeah, yeah, and so yeah, it's very important to do that, to make more housing available, and hopefully through not for profits, or even for home builders, bigger home builders, to say there's a market to the houses maybe further out of town, but there's a market to build houses at lower price points for people.
Great. Well,
So
thank you for the interview,
thank you.
Craig.
Oh yeah.